welcome to the guest list with your host, Steve Guest. Really excited for today's podcast guest. We've been connected for some time now. He's a great person to have around you. He's certainly helped me along the journey, and he's been a firm advocate of the book Topbiller, which I'm truly grateful for. And many of you will know this person. You will have connected. You will have seen the journey and how this person has effectively changed the recruitment world over the last 17 years or so. As many of you know, this podcast has been born out of the success of the book, but also the fact that recruitment, leaders, inspirational empowerment of individuals creating value and content. And I put a post out to my network and asked, who would you like to listen to? Who would you like to hear talk about their journeys and their respective paths with high-powered, high-performing, high-billing consultants. And that's what's led to today's guest. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Ephram Stephenson to the show.
Hi, Steve. How are you, mate?
I'm very well, thank you. Thank you for joining me. Before we get started, I'm just going to run through your bio and just give all of our listeners a bit of a kind of overview for perhaps those that don't know you or haven't connected with you over the years. So over the past 17 years, you and your teams have successfully placed over 10,000 people into permanent jobs and over 25,000 people into temporary assignments, which are phenomenal numbers at every level of the mining, oil and gas, engineering, construction, insurance, fintech, finance, property and building industries throughout Australia. You've lived in England, Jordan, South Africa, Zimbabwe, and then finally Australia. You've developed extensive recruitment experience across a variety of cultures and countries. You've particularly made advances in executive search for top tier professionals and every aspect of recruitment across complex forms, situations and scenarios. A serial entrepreneur, you have founded and co-founded 12 successful recruitment businesses within the last decade, specialising in mining, oil and gas, executive search, insurance, finance, sales, accounting, software and IT, blue collar, property and construction. A whole wealth of awards listed, LinkedIn most socially engaged recruitment agencies across a number of years, Recruitment International Award winner, Best Training and Development Australia, nominated to the Forbes Business Council a couple of times over the last 2 years, and nominated to YPO Construction Industry Network Board. My word, I've got to take a breath there. Well done.
I guess when you put it all into context like that, mate, it does sound like it's been a hell of a ride, hasn't it?
That's huge. I mean, to have co-founded and founded one successful recruitment business, most recruiters, most people set on a journey to do that. To go out there and do 12 that's phenomenal.
Yeah, no, thanks, mate. I guess it's all down to the people that you go into business with and you partner with, which is the most exciting thing for me. It's just really how it's kind of panned out. And look, it's been an exciting ride along the way. Not without its pitfalls and trials and tribulations and GFCs and COVIDs and all that jazz. But look, mate, I'm still standing, 43, still living the life as a recruiter, and still love making a placement as much as the next person.
Yeah, well, hats off to you. So my first question, I think, comes from that very line, the fact that you've got here within your bio 12 successful recruitment businesses. What does success look like to you? What is it that a successful recruitment business looks like?
Yeah, look, I mean, that's a really good question, isn't it? And ultimately, for me personally, it's about leaving a legacy and building a brand. And working again, obviously with the industry's leading consultants. I mean, all the businesses that I've been a part of, are all still operating, still running successfully. And for me personally, it was more so the challenge of creating something out of nothing. And the old saying goes in recruitment, Steve, you're only as good as your last placement. And really trying to take that into every journey or every startup, and try and build a business that is either a specialist within their chosen field. I haven't really been involved in too many generalist agencies. As such, it's always been around, obviously, similar to yourself. Property construction was literally my starting point within the recruitment realm. Having grandfather was in construction, dad was in construction, so always had a passion for it, but didn't really know how I was going to channel it, and then fell into recruitment, as like a lot of people do, and that's really what snowballed the passion for recruitment, and I guess trying to make a difference as well, mate. It's cliche, I know it sounds cheesy, but it's so true, like trying to create and go against some of these large multinationals, nationals and international organizations, and having a lot of fun along the way.
Yeah, I say, I mean, you mentioned there about adding value and doing, I suppose, adding that element of, I suppose, ownership and empowerment. Starting a new business gives you that, doesn't it? It's a blank canvas to be able to say, what are we trying to achieve here?
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's certainly part of the excitement for me is, again, having that blank canvas and, whether it's a fast growth, obviously high energy, exponential growth, or whether it's more of a slow burner over time. Obviously I've been involved in all types of businesses across that kind of, growth phase. But for me, it's that excitement about, going out to market with something new, winning new accounts, tapping into new markets that I haven't personally tapped into, or recruited for, and I guess also really just kind of evolving with the economy. I mean, that's obviously also got a lot to play in it, doesn't it? It's there's a number of agencies that are still doing really well during COVID, and I think it's had its challenges for a number of businesses, but it's a perfect opportunity for startups. And I think, again, that's what we're starting to see now coming out the other side. A lot of one-man bands, people, basically teams of people leaving reputable organizations and going out on their own. And so for me, it was more of a kind of consulting gig, people asking me for advice, where did I go wrong? How can I save them money doing things right? And always passionate about sharing that information. And really, I guess on the back of that, I've formed a number of very close relationships with business partners who are now very close friends, and help them obviously kind of, tackle the minefield, which is the world of recruitment, and specifically around the startup market. So, mate, I mean, it's just how it's really transpired and how conversations have happened has really led us to this point. Yeah.
And you mentioned a really important point there. Now, I'm kind of old school and traditional in my thinking. I've had to kind of train my thought process over the years, because we're kind of taught from a very early age that failure is bad, not achieving what you set out to achieve or making mistakes is bad, and that you should try and avoid it at all costs. And I think we, whether it's subliminal or not, we try and put ourselves in areas where we're just never going to fall down, and we protect ourselves. Setting up a new recruitment business is difficult. It's difficult on a number of levels. And there will be elements along that process where you do fail and things don't quite work or don't go to plan. What do you feel has perhaps been the biggest lesson or the biggest learning in terms of the 12 companies or the last 10 years or so?
Personally, my experience with VC, venture capitalists, it's very much a learning curve. I've been very much a people person. Again, promoting from within, looking after my employees from a personal level, not necessarily from a professional point of view. And, bringing in venture capitalists who are only seeing one thing, which is the bottom line and ultimately the numbers, and really stripping hearts out of businesses, which are ultimately the backbone of the organizations. That for me has been a real learning curve. you know, and I'm not saying that it's necessarily all bad, but certainly looking at it from a different point of view, having other shareholders to, you know, obviously to report into, again, comes with its challenges when you've been a one-man band, you know, one shareholder, one director, to all of a sudden now reporting into a board. But that would certainly be, again, it's not necessarily all negative. What I've tried to do from these experiences is really, I guess, bring it all together and utilize that skill set and that knowledge, which is invaluable. You know, like, I'd never worked in recruitment until I come to Australia. So the experiences that I've had really over the last 20 years, you know, in Australia, 17 years being an entrepreneur, 2.5 years working for an agency on commission only. I wouldn't say I've seen it all, but, you know, I've certainly had the ups and downs when it comes to, you know, wanting to scale a business and, you know, take a business from a $20 million turnover to a $50 million turnover in the space of 12, 18 months. Like, that is exciting, and certainly, you know, very fortunate to play a part in that type of growth. Having said that, though, you know, what's stopping people from just stopping at Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, Perth, London? You know, it's like always, there's always that carrot in recruitment, and there's always new markets evolving. There's always new top billers coming to the fold, and, you know, maybe they're unhappy where they're currently working, or maybe not being looked after, and having a conversation around an equity piece and growing something together. That's you know, that's what I really enjoy, I guess, about my past experience. But, you know, ultimately, it's all about getting the right people, the right team behind you. You know, the old saying goes, we are only, you know, as good as the people in our team or the people that are behind us. And never true a story spoken, I guess, when it comes to the successes and also the failures of some of the businesses that we've been part of. And I guess from a failure point of view, it's really, did we try and grow too quickly, too soon? You know, did we hire the right people? You know, did we spend, you know, too much money on rec to recs? You know, obviously going out to market thinking that we have to hire, you know, the best candidates, or sorry, the best consultants in the industry. You know, where time will tell that the reality of it is the in-house training, the development, the mentoring is just as valuable, and you're probably going to get more longevity out of those types of consultants who you can really train, develop, and mold really from the get-go. So that's why I was a big advocate of your book, mate, kind of incorporating that into our onboarding. Obviously big fan of Mike Walmsley in the UK, and been using his material for a number of years. You know, we have basically an internal LMS system, so learning management system, which is obviously all web-based. So again, just always trying to evolve with the times, and again, learn from the mistakes along the way.
Yeah, I think you've got to evolve. And again, you mentioned something about the last 12 months, the pandemic. It's certainly in the UK, it's left a lot of recruiters on furlough, or perhaps having to leave where they've been working. A lot left and thought, well, I might as well set up on my own. If I'm working from home, it makes sense to give it a go. What would you say would be the key lessons for it? So there's lots of recruiters sat out there. They've just started on their journey, setting themselves up. They might have minimal experience, maybe 12 months, 6 months in some cases. What would you say were the key lessons for them that are sat there thinking, how do I go about this? How do I grow a business?
Yeah. Look, recruitment's all relationship based. So, you know, for somebody to go out on their own, first and foremost, takes a lot of balls, a lot of guts, you know, a lot of energy, a lot of sleepless nights. But if you're committed to the cause, personally, I believe it's all about brand. It's about integrity. You know, it's about doing the right thing for everyone that you come into contact with. And, you know, LinkedIn is such a powerful tool. You know, you look at the Coder & Co brand, one shareholder, one director, myself, basically grew the brand. And I literally, you know, was utilizing LinkedIn for what it's there for. It's there for networking. It's there for getting the message out. And I think that's certainly proven very successful during the COVID situation, you know, with Coder & Co as a group. You know, I was based in Melbourne at the time, so I was literally in home isolation. We just moved into a brand new office. I think we were there for maybe a week before everyone was back working from home. And, you know, that was a tough 5 months. Like, it really was, trying to have daily Zoom calls and motivate the teams. And And I think, for people that are going out on their own, it's exactly that. Surround yourself with people. There's so many people out there that are willing to help. So many people that are willing to take time out of their diary to have a catch up, have a chat. And I guess that's ultimately what I would be, recommending or encouraging people to do, is reach out to people like yourself. Reach out to Greg Savage, reach out to Mike Wormsley, and, obviously say good day. And, that wealth of knowledge and experience. And I think also antidotes and different scenarios they can run past you, again, is invaluable. And a lot of people tend to shy away from, I guess, the mentoring or, the training in general, whereas being no recruitment experience coming over here, I've always been trying to constantly train, develop, and mentor myself. It's about continuous learning. Good thing with recruitment, no one day will ever be the same. So I think if you can have a bit of fun with that along the way as well. And look, there's so many businesses out there at the moment that are struggling, similar to the UK. I know you guys are obviously starting to come out of the whole lockdown situation, but there's never been a better time. Honestly, I don't believe for recruitment startups or entrepreneurs within the recruitment space, even down to the technology. There's a number of tech businesses coming back onto the fold, obviously new, tech stack that's becoming available that can actually do so much for entrepreneurs, whether it's a one-man person or whether it's a group of 5, 10. There's so much out there from an automation point of view that can actually make everyone's job so much easier. So as long as you're not one to shy away from the phone, and you're okay having conversations during difficult times, and and I guess also taking a step back, Steve, and thinking that it's not always about the money either, right? It's not the commercial outcome that you always need to be looking for. I'll give you an example, mate. I had a client reach out to me who I hadn't spoken to in over 15 years. Reached out to me a couple of months ago looking for quite a senior position that they were looking to hire. And that is the only conversation that we'd had in 15 years. But because of it's crazy, right? But the only way we'd been interacting is similar to you and I, is basically via LinkedIn. They've been keeping an eye on the story and where we're up to and what we're doing. So I think that speaks volumes as well. The fact that if you can value repeat business and really hone in on that, everyone's so busy trying to get in these blue chip accounts, ASX listed businesses, Fortune 500 companies, whatever the case may be. But there's also a number of other up and coming businesses that a lot of people tend to kind of leave by the wayside, and me personally, I'd always rather recruit for an owner of the business who's looking to make an instrumental hire in their business, one that you can actually really make a big difference in their organization and help them thrive. Historically, we've made more revenue or more profit from those types of companies than going after the big boys, which again come with a great brand, but also come with a lot of red tape along the way. I'm sure I'm not telling you anything you don't already know, mate. I'm sure you're experiencing that all day long at the moment. But
I love that, because I've spent years having other recruiters take the mickey out of me because I'll deal with companies with the 3 and 4 letter acronyms to their names that nobody's ever heard of. And they're like, why do you deal with them? I think because nobody else knows them. Why wouldn't you? You get exclusive supply. You get to build a strong, lasting relationship. They come back to you when they have a need. You don't have to fight everyone else to get a placement. It makes perfect sense to me. Why would I want to sit alongside another 15 agencies all working on the same vacancy? It's not a good use of time.
Completely agree.
I completely get it. Okay, so in terms of recruiters, obviously you've got to go out there and have that drive. Recruiters setting up their businesses, recruiters starting within the big corporate setups, it's exactly the same. You've got to have that right mindset, that personal drive to go and deliver. Over the years, you've obviously worked with, hired, recruited high-performing, top-billing consultants. What would you say have been the kind of personality traits? What is it that separates the high performers from everybody else?
Yeah, without a doubt, the drive, determination, and passion for what they do. And I think that speaks volumes. I've been very fortunate, Steve, over the last 12 months to be working, I guess in two businesses, and both basically, which are now obviously headed up by, two of arguably the best recruiters, I've come into contact with and had the look, I guess not the luxury, but I guess the honor of working alongside. And obviously it's been so exciting, and it's really refreshing to see just, you don't become $1 million biller overnight, Steve, as you know. And, fortunately, the two individuals that I'm referring to, are without a doubt the best in their space. So for me, it's a no-brainer to kind of get up in the morning, and I'm actually excited to get on the phone and get into the office and be surrounded by that type of passion. That passion, drive, hunger. I've gone my whole career thinking, employees are never going to work as hard as you. And, why should they? It's your business, right? But to actually work alongside individuals that are just as motivated, if not more motivated than me, is really refreshing. And I love being around that type of environment. And I love seeing and learning new things. Like I say, it's that continuous learning.
Yeah, it's definitely there. And I think we touched on the idea of mentors and coaches. And I think as a recruiter, I was kind of, I suppose, initially trained and given the idea that you ring fence everything. You kind of protect your clients, you protect your candidates. You're not going to share anything. You certainly don't want to collaborate with your colleagues or your competitors. Why should you? You want to make it all your own. And I think I would say probably over the last 10, 11, maybe even 12 years, I've certainly softened, and I've actually seen the benefits of having the right people around you, having people that say, do you know what, actually, if you put your minds together and you make placements more quicker, you can move on to the next thing. And I think that's a whole area of, I suppose, trying to change the industry, trying to change the perception of how you should be working. Have you come up against things like that where recruiters just don't want to share anything?
Not that I want to call out all the top billers in the industry, but historically, top billers come with headaches. It's very much ego driven. I've seen a few posts recently for Rec2Rex over here in Australia where, it's great to see the champions lunches back again. And it's great to see, the top biller months back again. And it's like, well, it is, but what about the team members that have really been struggling over the last few months during COVID? And obviously, it's not through lack of trying that they're probably not performing as well as the top billers. The top billers traditionally would have a very strong client base, very strong client relationships in place. Look, mate, it's certainly caused me issues in a couple of the businesses over the years. Is by going out to market and trying to attract those top billers. And, it sometimes can, mess up your salary caps, your salary structure, your commission structures, because they're always kind of wanting more. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. I've been there myself. But does it create the right type of culture long term? I don't believe so. I really don't. Now, again, I'm working with arguably the best recruiter that I've ever come across, in my 20 years in recruitment. She was Hayes' global biller, and for 8 years, 6 of those 8 years, basically their global biller. And just to see how down to earth and just how forthcoming and no ego basically about them whatsoever, and they just get on and get the job done. And again, from a mentoring training point of view, to see just how infectious that is, again, it's a real rarity within the industry. I personally believe, anyway.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? I've had a few. I've spoke to many people certainly over the last 12 months, partly due to how well the book has done. And the general feedback has been when you see a book or a title saying top biller, the automatic thought process is arrogance, ego, stick your chest out, I'm the best, nobody can touch me. And actually when they get to speak to me and just see that I'm normal, in fact, I'm probably the complete opposite of what they expect me to be. They kind of find it both refreshing and surprising at the same time. That actually building strong relationships based on trust, ethics, honesty, hard work, and effort is the best process.
Oh, and that's it's not that it's frustrating, but it's definitely, it's not rocket science. Recruitment's not hard. It's relationship based. And as long as, you do the right thing and you don't overpromise and underdeliver, people will keep coming back to you, both candidates and clients. And I think that's what really separates a lot of the recruitment agencies that are still very much that kind of boiler room mentality, very KPI driven, and it's all around activity. It's all around how many calls they're making, how many notes they're putting into the system. And I think that actually attributes to creating that type of culture, in a sense that, it then becomes very much, it's all about me. It's not a team. It's not that collaboration. It's very much me out for myself. And yeah, look, I think you get it in most industries, but recruitment especially, I guess those types of individuals, they're sometimes very difficult to manage, aren't they? Let's be honest.
Massively.
Yeah.
Say I've had my own experiences, which we won't delve into. Okay, so in terms of having the resources around you and having things that I suppose propel the individual or the business, you've got within your bio a multitude of LinkedIn most socially engaged recruitment agencies. The power of the personal brand, the rise of social media marketing, it's so effective and important in the current day. I mean, what's your take on that? What's your view on recruiters that perhaps don't have a personal brand or aren't putting things out there on social media?
Well, again, you look at LinkedIn, you look at, the likes of Recruitment Mentors, you look at Hoxo Media. There's clearly a market there for it, right? And I think that's where, and sorry, I believe also you do a program as well in relation to, I guess, the brand. You've got a couple of other people over here who are doing it really well. I've always been a big believer in brands, and I think that's probably something that I take very, I take to heart, and I put a lot of time and effort in making sure that there's that consistency with the brand and people know who we are and what we're about, and leaving that legacy behind in regards to, we want to be seen as the go-to agency in whatever space it is that I'm involved in. And for you to do that, it's all about personal brand, company brand, but also, not just self-promotion. You have some personality to it, and help out wherever you can. And I think I've run a couple of competitions in regards to giving your book away, for example. And again, it's literally a case of I want to always try and do the right thing. You're not going to get it right every single time, but if there's any time or anything I can ever do for any of my peers or any consultants in the industry, I'll go above and beyond and out of my way to try and help that. And another thing during COVID, and literally sitting there thinking, I'm on the learning management system, putting together some additional courses. It's free, I own all the commercial rights to it. So, rather than keep it just internal to the Kona & Co group, I think giving away over, 50 accesses or 50 consultants access to the LMS for 12 months. And again, it's just doing something because I can, right? And it's not a case that I'm looking for a commercial outcome. It's a case that people are genuinely looking for training, development, mentoring, and anything we could do to help. And I think that's what the industry is probably missing, is, like you say, let's keep all our trade secrets to ourselves. Let's keep all our IP to ourselves. I've seen a few sale agreements over the last few years in businesses that I've exited. And it always makes me laugh when it comes down to, intellectual property and trade secrets. It's like, well, what? Everything's out there. Everything's on the web that they could go out and see. So the sun's blaring down on me here in Perth. Everything's out there for people to actually go out and find, right? It's always a hot topic. But brand, for me personally, we won 3 years in a row LinkedIn most social engaged, and that was with Design and Construct. And at the time, we probably only had about 30 staff, maybe 3 offices, 30 staff, but it was from the inception of the business, there was always that brand. One of the first things I did when I launched the business in 2003 was trademark. I trademarked building careers. Even back then, the value in that kind of, going through the years, D&C, I was involved in it. It went from design and construct, brought in the VC, then rebranded to building careers, and now they've just rebranded again to evolve talent. But, it's the brand and the integrity, I think, has played a big part in, obviously allowing me to exit the business and obviously grow it as much as I did. Little would people have known when I first launched the business that it was literally me sitting in a bedroom by myself, but the brand and the website and the marketing obviously told a different story, in a sense that, it's professional, executive search, property construction, and again, it's not as if I was over-promising and under-delivering. For me, I just wanted to be proud of the business that I created and the brand that I created. So yeah, I'm a big believer in brands, and I think everyone should spend a lot more time, whether it's personal promotion, company, team, career advice, whatever it is. There's certainly a number of opportunities that people can do to really do their part.
Definitely. And I think if you just simply look at the stat, what is it? 1% of LinkedIn users post. 1%. Mm-hmm. That's a ridiculous statistic, considering the number of users, certainly the number of recruitment users, and they're not actively using a free resource to promote who they are, what they do, how they work, what markets they specialize in, their successes, their failures, and everything in between.
Absolutely.
As I say, we're talking now because of LinkedIn and the social engagement we've had. And I think the journey that I've been on over the last few years lies very heavily with the start of perhaps the personal brand, which was some way in the middle of 2018, I would think. And it's just so effective, but people don't necessarily invest any time in it.
They don't. I mean, look, I'll give you another scenario just on that, just quickly, mate. I mean, so Coder & Co. as a group has entities running underneath it, and the Coder & Co. finance group, basically myself and 4 other basically business partners, equity shareholders. We launched the business and we never met each other. Well, I'd met one person, but the other 3 directors and shareholders I'd never actually met personally face to face. And this was all during the COVID lockdown. And I think that is, it's all about the brand. They bought into what we've been doing behind the scenes, for the 6 months running up to COVID. And I think that is testament. And we were actually laughing and joking about it, saying, well, is this going to be the new way of business? That everything was literally done via LinkedIn, and I think that speaks volumes for just how powerful it is as a platform and as something for you to really get the message out there.
Yeah, it's a huge process in addition to anybody's kind of recruitment life, sales life, or just general development. I think it's vital for your own personal development as well. And I think the recruitment industry, I often say, it's like the industry that time forgot in many ways. It's still very archaic in so many ways that it operates. And actually I suppose education and engagement of our audience, clients, candidates, whatever it might be, to actually what it takes to be a good consultant is just starting to come through now, I think, as recruiters start to understand that actually it's okay to say you're having a bad day, you've lost your mojo, or things haven't happened, people haven't turned up, people have let you down. Generally, the outside of the recruitment world, people don't see that part. They just think we go there, ring the bell, we're making huge placements, loads of money, we're rolling around in our Rolex watches and wads of cash everywhere, which is just so far removed from the truth.
Absolutely, 100%. 100%. Excuse me. Look, I think with the with the training material that's out there, again, like you're saying, it's so the material that dates back to the 80s and 90s hasn't really changed at all. Yes, it could do with a facelift from a brand point of view, but the actual content, it's still gold, and it's still leads you to the same principles and ultimately get you the same result. But I honestly believe, there's a huge market within the recruitment space on a global level from a training development point of view. And that's why it's so exciting to see all these tech stacks or tech businesses kind of launch the new, training platforms. And I think it'll be certainly us as a business at Tailored Resources, the business that I'm a part of now. We've just actually brought through our first lot of associates. We've got trainers based around Australia who are actually flying over to the West Coast to actually have one-on-one training. And I think that is so valuable. Even when we're going to speak to clients and we're explaining, we've just actually brought on board basically a wellbeing concierge. So their role is purely mental health focused. So calling to, to the temporary candidates on site, so making sure that, that they're okay, how are things going, also for our internal staff. And I think it's, initiatives like that will make a huge difference in the long term. And also it really identifies kind of the additional training that consultants may need, and whether that's time management, whether it's resilience training, whether it's overcoming objections. We talked about recruitment not being a hard gig, or not being rocket science, but emotionally, it does obviously draw on the heartstrings, right? And I think from a mental health point of view, it's so prevalent within the industry that again, I think there needs to be a huge training piece behind that as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's a huge topic in itself, isn't it? The mental health side. We as salespeople live on the cliff edge at most points during the day, and we're constantly being knocked down for whatever reason, whether that is rejection through calls, feedback, people not turning up. There's so many elements. And not only that, you're then being beaten up over KPIs or management saying, why haven't you done this? Why haven't you achieved that? Where's your figures? What's happening with this? Have you sent your email? Have you done your 20 sales calls? And you're still expected to achieve everything.
Absolutely.
And I think mental health is a huge piece within recruitment. And I think that certainly over the last 12 months, there's been many a person that has now started to champion that. And there's new areas coming out where people are employing people very much for that specific reason. I think it's really important. Okay. So if you were to name perhaps 2 or 3 people around you, mentors, coaches, people that have really inspired you and perhaps pushed you to where you are today, who would you say the most, I suppose, inspiring people are that you've had around you?
Yeah, look, it's again very fortunate to be working with Leslie Delaney at Tailored Resources. Arguably, just a game changer for me from a perception in regards to exponential growth. Been going now for 8 months, 33 staff in that time. Basically, from there, just created a business which the foundations are all built purely on the staff and doing the right thing for the industry, trying to cut out the toxic culture that is actually within the blue collar space. That's been really inspirational for me to be a part of, obviously, this growth within Leslie's business, but also when I found out that Leslie was actually looking to leave Hayes, to actually bring her into what was then Design and Construct, which then became Building Careers Australia. Without a doubt, the best recruiter that I've ever come into contact with. And it's very rare that I get excited about working with individuals. And it's not an ego thing. I'm so down to earth. But it takes a lot to kind of get the juices going, if you like, or get the buzz going. And to have the opportunity to grow something with Leslie, she was responsible for managing 450 temps daily herself with a team of 2 admins. Oh, right. I think working with those types of individuals is definitely inspiring. To be able to work with up and coming talent, James Toff, who promoted into the managing director role of Kona & Co Group. And now literally, because of the time constraints and how involved I am with Tailored, letting him literally run that, and very focused around the insurance space. He's 24 years old. He knows what he wants to do. He's all about self-development, mentoring. And for me, I love being around that kind of youth and passion and drive. So definitely, obviously Leslie, being involved with James, but then I think also what really motivated me, or certainly in the early part of my career, is bringing somebody into recruitment with no recruitment experience and seeing them shine, like just the passion, every call, every job that picking up every interview. And, I think that, and again, just reverting back to Taylor Resources, we've got a team of, individuals that we're training, development, mentoring daily. And I think it's actually really sparked, I guess, that drive and passion again within me, because we all like to teach people and we all like to mentor, but to actually see the end results, I think that's really what's motivated me personally. From a business point of view, I think, looking at, my peers in the industry, without a doubt, the likes of, Greg Savage, Mike Walmsley, I've had the privilege of working with both of them one-on-one, basically from a mentoring and from a coaching point of view. Arguably, the two best, trainers or individuals with training material in the industry. Seeing success stories like yourself, mate, obviously, going out there and, I won't say overnight becoming an author, but, having a very successful story behind that as well, I think is really entrepreneurial for me to kind of buy into. But just going back to looking at brands grow, so the utmost respect for, the likes of Design and Build over here, who were always in competition with my business, Design and Construct, and seeing us as medium-sized businesses taking over a huge lion's share of that kind of property construction space is really motivating as well. What else would I say on that? I think just going back to that trainee, actually seeing somebody make the first placement, pick up the first job. I won't say have the first no show, because obviously nobody likes that, but it happens. It happens to the best of us. But I think that, mate, for me, I'm a real people person, and that's what motivates me, is actually seeing other people succeed and going along for the ride. It's again, it has its pitfalls. But it also gets very lonely at the top, when you're one shareholder, one director, when whatever the structure is, to be able to share that love as well, that responsibility, I think is also, that's very refreshing for me at the moment.
Yeah, great stuff. I think that's lovely. I think it's lovely that you've almost got two ends there. You've got the top performing or inspiring recruiter, top billing and high performer, and you've also got the people with no experience that come in and they can inspire just as much as the person that's 100%. Been there and done it.
That's 100%. We actually have a girl working with me at the moment, and she confirmed her first interview on Friday last week. And just it was like, okay, calm down, it's only an interview. But then you kind of take a step back and you go, do you know what? Like, good on you. Like, high five as much as you want. And because I think there's not enough of that in the industry. We take it for granted that, okay, well, yeah, obviously, you've gone through 4 weeks worth of training, whatever the case may be. Now, that's expected, but we've got to celebrate the small wins. And I think that's definitely what the industry is missing for sure.
100%. Well, look, I want to extend a huge thank you. Firstly, I want to thank you because of the support that you've given me over the last 12, 18 months. It's been brilliant. And in terms of helping me market the book, you are definitely up there with one of the most engaged individuals. So huge thank you personally from me. Thank you for joining me today. It's been lovely to chat to you and get to know you a little bit better. In terms of our listeners, so if they're looking to come and find you, I'm assuming LinkedIn is probably first point of call.
Yeah, look, first point of call, I guess having a random name like Ephram and a northern accent, obviously, I'm not that difficult to track down. Any good recruiter should be able to find me. But yeah, by all means, Ephram Stephenson is a company, basically, it's on LinkedIn. They can contact me at Tailored Resources or basically just reach out to me through one of the other channels. And again, look, if any of your listeners do need any career advice or just pointers or advice regards to setting up businesses, I'm always happy to help and only a phone call away.
That's fantastic. So we'll put all the links in the comments anyway, so people will be able to come and find you. Just as a normal round off of these podcasts, if there was one single piece of advice you'd give the listeners, what would that be? What would that look like?
Again, mate, I wouldn't be where I am today without the passion for what it is that I do. And never worked in recruitment. My passion was all around that construction, property, second, third generation builders. And to be able to put that into a career, which is ultimately sales, right, has just provided me with one of the best, very fortunate, but one of the best rides and career opportunities I think that, I would have ever stumbled across. And I guess it's everyone. I'm a big believer is you have to be passionate about what you do. Again, it's a cliche. If you're passionate about what you do, you never have to work a day in your life. And again, I'm a big believer in that.
It's so true. And what a way to end the podcast too.